I am this close to activating my wildcard in FPL, but the big question is, do I activate it this game week 10, or is there an argument to use it later on in the season around game week 18 or 19? In this video, I'm going to discuss exactly when I plan on using it and when you should use it as well for your team. So make sure you do drop a like on this video and of course, smash that subscribe button. Aim for 11,000 before the game week 9 deadline. I know you legends can do that. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, so first up, we need to discuss exactly why I am planning on using my wildcard in the coming game weeks. And the reason being is because of these players. It was a bit of a disaster week in game week 8 with only 45 points scored, meaning I had a small red arrow to 1.1 million in the world. Not where I want to be, of course, going into game week 9, but considering a lot of FPL managers use their wildcard in game week 8 and they had the investment in Mo Salah, I kind of get it. I needed some big performances from the Man United pair of Rashford and Bruno Fernandes, and surprise, surprise, it didn't happen. My patience is wearing very, very thin on both of those players. So outside of Jordan Pickford, who finally gave me a clean sheet in FPL, and Kieran Trippier ticking over nicely, there wasn't really else much to report in the team. So what is the good in this team? Having triple Spurs going into game week 9 is a good thing. Having double Man City attack is not bad against this Brighton defence. Kieran Trippier, a great differential right now with a brilliant home fixture against Crystal Palace, and already having ownership in Matty Cash is a good thing as well. But of course, there are problems in this team. Having double Man United midfield isn't ideal. And the important thing is, with the fixture swings of certain teams, I'm not having ownership in those teams right now, and getting to them with points hits isn't really ideal because I need to cover myself off in a lot of areas. So let me talk to you exactly what the benefits are and problems of using a wildcard in game week 9, game week 10, and later on in the season in game weeks 18 and 19. So if you still have your wildcard available, this is going to be a central viewing. So as I mentioned, in my eyes, there are 3 opportunities to use the wildcard from now until when it expires in game week 19. And that is going to be in the current game week we're in, game week 9, game week 10 or game week 18 or 19, depending on how your team gets on closer to that time. So let me talk you through game week 9 first and foremost, the week that we are currently in. And I am going to slightly tailor this towards my team because naturally I need to talk about my team in this video, but this will hopefully translate into your team as well. So the benefits of me using my wildcard right now is going to be I get to buy Mo Salah early doors for that Everton fixture at home, which is a brilliant fixture. Even though I expect Sean Dyche to put up a strong defensive performance, Everton's numbers haven't been really that good. And with Liverpool being at home and with the underlying numbers they've been putting up, I'd expect them to score in that fixture. So getting Mo Salah for that fixture is a real plus side. The other thing as well is selling Man United assets. Now you'll notice that they are both in the pro and the con section for this, but I'll come on to that bit in a minute. Selling Man United is naturally the way I want to go with my team, and getting it done in a wildcard makes sense. Investing in some of the other premiums that are offering way better value in the game. And the other thing is building squad value. Every single day that I wait to use my wildcard, the players that I inevitably want to own are going to continue rising in price. And I might not be able to afford the optimal wildcard team when I do eventually maybe get to game week 10, because some of the players that I want to own, Ollie Watkins being a perfect example, is someone I know I want to have, but he's becoming more and more unattainable as he rises in price. I believe he's now 8.2 million, which is a problem for me right now because it's getting closer to me not being able to afford him. Now, the problems of me using the wildcard in game week 9 is going to be, I'm going to have to sell Kieran Trippier. I've been building wildcard drafts and I just cannot build one that brings him into the defence while owning the premiums in midfield and attack. And with Crystal Palace at home, I don't feel that this is a good time to sell Kieran Trippier, as a lot of people can't actually own him. So it feels like the perfect week to still have him as a bit of a differential in my team. Another problem is, and I have them as pro and con, is selling Man United versus Sheffield United. I know they've been terrible, Man United, but this is the worst team in the league, Sheffield United. And it feels like if I've held Man United this long, surely I hold them for one more week against Sheffield United. And the last thing is, it feels too early to go for Arsenal. I know I want Arsenal assets from game week 10 onwards, but game week 9 away against Chelsea, yes, they could do well, but it just doesn't feel like the right entry point to bring in those assets. Now, looking at game week 10, I feel like this more tailors towards my personal team. It means I can buy both Liverpool and Arsenal assets in a heartbeat. I can triple up if I want to, knowing that they have fantastic fixtures in game week 10 and beyond. And it's also worth noting, Man United also have a really tricky fixture against Man City, so it feels natural to swing from Man United to these assets. Another thing, I don't have Ollie Watkins versus Luton, and that feels like almost a game changer pick. If I don't own him then and he goes off, that literally will double my rank, and that feels like an essential player to own in that week. And last up, as I said, I can sell my Man United assets. The one problem I do view with the Game Week 10 wildcard as opposed to Game Week 9 is I mentioned the squad value is going to be so high by then. It means that I can't afford the players that I want to own. So that is a bit of an issue. If I want to Game Week 10 wildcard, I have to pray some of these players I want to own don't continue rising in price. Now, last up, another consideration that you can see on your screens is something you might consider is the Game Week 18/19 wildcard. Now, the reason why you might wait till now is because the expectation is that we will get a double game week for Man City and Brentford in Game Week 20. Now, we already know Game Week 18 is a blank game week for Man City. So what you would be able to do is bring your Man City players in for a wild card in that period to double down for their double game week in 20. And I really do like that because if you don't use your wild card over this period, you're going to have to navigate a blank game week followed by a double game week for Man City. And that's always a very tricky situation to be in. But I feel like if I was to wild card in Game Week 10, I'd be able to prepare myself for that situation later down the line with free transfers. The con of using it in Game Week 18/19 is that if I don't use it now, I'm going to have to take multiple points hits to get the players that I know I want in. So if I don't wildcard now, I'm going to have to do points hits for Saka. I'm going to have to do it for Liverpool players. I'm going to have to do it for Watkins. And for my general team, I just feel like using the wildcard in Game Week 10 makes complete sense. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. So with my team looking like a Game Week 10 wildcard is the optimal move, Game Week 9 means that I can start searching for maybe those potential 1 week punts, because naturally I can't roll a free transfer over if I'm going to wildcard in Game Week 10. So I need to have a look at my team and understand, is there any players who have that real high ceiling for 1 game week only? Now, the problem with my team is it's looking fantastic for Game Week 9. There are only a few players I would even consider selling in my team. One of those is going to be Marcus Rashford. I know he has a brilliant away fixture against Sheffield United, but he's been coming off early, and one would argue his game time is slightly at risk if he continues with these performances. So maybe selling Marcus Rashford for a 1 game week punt is definitely on the cards, but he's the only midfielder I would consider selling. Defenders wise, I don't really like it for a 1 game week punt. I don't really think there are many in the game that offer upside. The other player that I would consider selling for my team is going to be Julian Alvarez, if there is even a hint of him getting rested in that home fixture against Brighton. It's worth noting, I think City could do very well against Brighton, but is Julian Alvarez a slight rotation risk potentially? Maybe. So the 2 players I am considering selling is Marcus Rashford for a 1 week punt or Julian Alvarez. Or of course, the other option is I simply burn my free transfer because I do not want to rip up the team I currently have. So if I was to bring in a 1 week punt for my team, here are the best fixtures to consider. However, there are just some teams that I do not want to invest in. Forest at home against Luton is a great fixture. Yes, I could bring in Gibbs White, but selling Marcus Rashford for Gibbs White or Hudson-Odoi just doesn't really sit well for me. So with the fixtures that you can see here, the only ones that I think offer some value to me is going to be Bournemouth at home against Wolves. I could see a situation, if I'm worried about Julian Alvarez's minutes, maybe bringing in an attacker from Bournemouth. And the other one of this is going to be Liverpool's home fixture against Everton. I can't easily get to someone like a Mo Salah, but maybe there are other options available in that Liverpool team that offers some differential value to me. And I'm going to cover off one who I think is an amazing option for Game Week 9. So with me only really looking at those players that have great fixtures and that high FPL ceiling, the only player I would consider selling Marcus Rashford for is going to be Diogo Jota of Liverpool. Now, the great thing about this is that if I was to do Rashford to Jota, it means I already have the Bruno Fernandes cover at Man United, and Jota gives me that Liverpool coverage for that brilliant home fixture against Everton. Now, while I think Everton have been quite good this year, defensively, I haven't really been impressed with them, so I would expect Liverpool to do well from an attacking perspective. And as I mentioned, I cannot bring Mo Salah into my team, and it's worth noting the South American players, Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz, are playing quite late in the week in South America. And with Liverpool kicking off and the lunchtime on Saturday, there is an expectation or an understanding that they may be benched for that fixture, and Klopp will simply play the likes of Diogo Jota, Mo Salah and maybe a Gakpo if he is available. And at 7.7 million, only 1.3% owned, I feel like this is the perfect 1 week punt for my team. Now, look at the underlying numbers for him. They are brilliant. XG per 90, 0.59. Shots per 90 are great at 2.88. Yes, he doesn't offer much from an expected assist perspective, but we know Mo Salah has been the main creator in this Liverpool team. And if I'm able to get the goal scorer in this Liverpool team at 1.3% owned for a home fixture against Everton, this feels like an unbelievable opportunity. So Rashford to Jota makes complete sense. I just need to get an understanding of whether Rashford versus Sheffield United is better than that of Jota versus Everton or not. But this move is definitely on the cards. Another consideration for my team in a different department is going to be Solanke. Now, this would be a Julian Alvarez replacement. Now, as I said, I'm perfectly fine with owning Julian Alvarez at home against Brighton. While I think it'd be a tricky game for Man City, I don't think it's necessarily a bad game for Man City attackers looking at the Brighton underlying numbers defensively. My main worry is, could we see an opportunity for Julian Alvarez to be benched considering he is playing in South America during the international break? That's the slight worry I do have going into game week 9. Now, of course, I'm not really going to know come the game week 9 deadline because Man City don't kick off until after that period. So I would be taking a slight punt on this move. And Julian Alvarez to Dominic Solanke is the only forward move that I would consider. Remember, I have no money in the bank. And this one kind of ticks all the boxes because he is the talisman in this Bournemouth team. He's really lowly owned at 2.8%. And he has a decent home fixture against Wolves. 0.36 expected goals per 90 is really solid numbers. Shots per 90 at 2.75. They're decent underlying numbers for someone like Dominic Solanke. But realistically, if I was looking at it right now, Julian Alvarez to Solanke or Rashford to Diogo Jota, I just feel like the more exciting move is Rashford to Diogo Jota. I feel like Alvarez does have the potential chance of being benched if there is worries about his minutes over the international break. But I feel like Solanke is quite a safe move. And when we're looking for those 1 game week punts, I sometimes want the player who is slightly riskier, but just has that higher FPL ceiling. And I don't get that excitement with someone like a Solanke. And end of the day, we need to understand FPL is a game and sometimes we need to have fun with it. And does Solanke get me excited as a 1 game week punt? Not really. So although I think he's a good move, Alvarez to Solanke, it's not one that I'm really considering unless we were to get an understanding that Alvarez is not starting for City. So to quickly recap, I'm planning on wildcarding in game week 10. So game week 9 team is looking like either 1 free transfer or of course I will be looking to just simply burn it if my team looks too damn good on paper. So here's how the team is looking. First up, Turner in goal at home against Luton. Yes, a goalkeeper transfer could be on the cards, but realistically, I cannot be selling Matt Turner when he has a fantastic home fixture against Luton. I just got to pray that he does keep a clean sheet for my team because this could be the farewell for Turner in my side. Moving into the defence, and as I mentioned, it's too damn good on paper to even consider selling any of these 3 options. Now, it's worth noting, I much prefer Pedro Porro to your doggy as a Spurs asset. I think that's become clear now, especially after seeing the underlying numbers for both. But your doggy with no money in the bank to any other option just doesn't seem right, and a great home game against Fulham. And the same is going to apply for both Matty Cash and Trippier. I know I want Cash in the future and I've already built up value in him, so selling Matty Cash makes no sense whatsoever. And of course, as I mentioned, Kieran Trippier, a really tough player to own in a game week 10 wildcard team. So I do think a home fixture against Crystal Palace, as maybe his last game in my team, is an unbelievable opportunity to double down on those points. Because this feels like with the injuries that Palace have, an opportunity for not only a Newcastle clean sheet, but maybe that delightful Trippier assist or goal. So I'm expecting a mega haul from Kieran Trippier this week and gaining those differential points on other FPL managers that may be wildcarded in game week 8. So defenders wise, ain't no transfer needed. So moving into the midfielders, and this is where the first potential transfer could happen, as I discussed. Now, Mbeumo's been super disappointing, but the home game against Burnley is just too good to ignore. I wouldn't be selling him in that fixture. And as I mentioned, I would love to sell both Man United midfielders, but away against Sheffield United makes no sense to sell both. So Bruno Fernandes will be locked into my team because, of course, we expect him to be on penalties. So Rashford to Diogo Jota is the only midfield consideration that I do have, but I need to get an understanding closer to the deadline whether that is actually a value move or not for my team. And of course, with having the Spurs already at home against Fulham in Maddison and Son, no way I am selling those in a free transfer move. So while the midfield looks like this, and I'm really happy with it, I just need to get an understanding of maybe whether Rashford, Diego Jota is worthwhile. And at the time of recording, I am tempted to pull the trigger and get that move done to give me some Liverpool coverage in my team. But of course, I will update you on Friday's videos, team reveal, if I do make that move or not. And last up, the forwards. As I discussed, I have the Haaland-Alvarez double up, and Alvarez to someone like a Solanke is a consideration, but right now, I think I'd rather just take the risk on the minutes on Julian Alvarez at home against Brighton, rather than go into Dominic Solanke. No denying Solanke can do well, but it just doesn't fill me with excitement as a one-game week punt. So, as I mentioned, my starting 11 here is fantastic, and there definitely is a world where I just simply burn the free transfer and go into game week 10, hitting my wildcard off the back of this team. But if I was to make one move, I think Rashford to Diego Jota is the consideration for my team. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd be really interested to know. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope it's provided some value. And for those that have got their wildcard still available, give you a bit of an inclination of when you should actually be using it this season. So that is all from me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you can drop a like and smash that subscribe button, it'll be massively appreciated. And have an amazing day. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.